Good morning and welcome back to day 2 of our main stage sessions here at Cardano Summit 2023. If you think we had a lot of content yesterday, just wait until you hear the experts, the thought leaders, the strategists and the innovators that we have joining us today. We will fill your mind full of ideas and inspiration and plenty of education too, but please do make sure that throughout the event that you are taking lots of time to network and visit our exhibitors. But you're really here to hear from some of our experts and panelists this morning, and we are kicking off with a 5-star panelist, where we start to explore Intersect and its role in Cardano governance, not just today, but tomorrow and well into the future, so you are prepared for what is coming down the line. Join the Intersect bootstrapping team as they discuss how Intersect will play a truly pivotal role in Cardano's governance as an institution for the Cardano ecosystem. Plus, hear much more on the Constitutional Convention that's happening much later in 2024. Our panelists will give you everything that you need to know to make sure that you are prepared and ahead of the crowd. And here to lead the discussion, please give a huge first thing in the morning welcome to Sheldon Hunt.
Okay. Hello, Dubai. Hello, Cardano land. Pleasure to have all of you here today with us. It's wonderful to see so many of you here in the audience. I imagine there's many more watching from home. So really appreciate your contribution to this ecosystem and to coming to listen to all of us today. So, you might have heard about this thing called the MBO, now known as Intersect. And there's been a lot of questions circling. What is it? What is it going to do? And we are going to get into that today and try to imagine collectively here where we go into the future. So first up, I'm going to put Nigel on the spot. What is Intersect? Where did it come from? Why is it important?
Well, thank you, Sheldon. I would also like to say thank you to the Cardano Foundation. This is just a tremendous event. We're getting a lot of great feedback in this event. We're meeting a lot of great people. We're seeing a lot of good things that are going on. And I think just before I start and go into Intersect, I will just introduce my other panel guests. So on my right, I have Joel from IOG. After Joel, we've got Nick Hill from Emergo. And then, well, you all know Sheldon. So,
for better or worse.
For better or worse, yeah.
Ah, well.
So what is Intersect? Well, Intersect is our new members-based organization. It's a rally point for all the Cardano members and people that are associated with Cardano to be able to come together and participate in governance and also in different parts of the operation of the Cardano blockchain. There's lots of things that we are organizing. There's lots of different committees that people are getting involved in, and lots of different working groups for people to be getting involved in and actually start to develop the future of Cardano. So that's the basis of what we're trying to do. And I think right now we're upwards of 700 members, and we're climbing rapidly. This event, over the last couple of days, has seriously helped that. So as we talk about Intersect, maybe we can talk about a few of the things that we've done. Perhaps, Joel, we can talk about some of the committees we've set up.
Sure. So, you know, I may be biased, but I think if you look at blockchain ecosystems, one of the many things that makes Cardano unique is the way the community has historically and continues to play such an active role in developing and deciding and overseeing the future of this blockchain. But any community that comes together and is working on an ecosystem like this can always benefit from new tools, new ways to collaborate. And so if you look at Intersect, it's a town square. It's a way for the community to collaborate, to work together, to debate, to build, to develop, and to imagine a future. And so as Nigel talked about, with Intersect as a member-based organization, by definition, that means it's the members that are the ones deciding what Intersect does, what its future is. And so Intersect has and will continue over time to form a number of committees, ways in which members can actually come together and work. And so some examples, and this is not intended to be an exclusive list, because some committees are already stood up. Many more will come in the future. But there is a technical steering committee, a committee of people that have deep technical skills and expertise that can come together to debate and look at where should Cardano go in the future? What new development should be undertaken? What new features? What new enhancements? What direction should this blockchain go in? And so those are the folks that can put proposals together to the community and suggest ways for this blockchain to evolve. Those are the folks that can evaluate what's being done today and give their expert opinion to the world about, hey, we think this is a good idea, or maybe this is not such a good idea. Intersect already has a civics committee, a committee that's going to look at governance. How does this ecosystem govern itself through its participants? What are the ways that we can come up with best practices for governance? How do we provide a forum for people to debate and evaluate proposals for governance that ultimately will be voted on chain through the 1694 process? What does a future constitution for this ecosystem look like? So that civics committee can get involved in all of those things. And of course, we have a membership committee that's near and dear to Sheldon's heart, which is going to continue to look at ways to do outreach, to connect the Cardano community together, and to look at more and more ways that the community can participate, both large and in small ways together. And as I said, those are some examples, but many more to come.
Very good. And so now a question for you, Nikhil. Who is Intersect for?
Well, the short answer is everyone. We have an existing Cardano community, but we obviously want to grow that community. I think I want to go back a second to what you guys were talking about. So just to contextualize Intersect, we're moving into this age of Voltaire, right? Which is not static. There is no end point to it as such. It is just an ongoing evolution. So as we move into that, right, how are we going to establish a framework that allows the community, and that is in itself organic and evolving and not static, with different wants and needs, going to decide how you play in this ecosystem, right? And so Intersect for me is a starter for 10, right? If I can use that expression, say, okay, here's a line in the sand. We're going to establish a baseline, if you like, of how we move forward. And now members of the community can use their ADA to vote on, do we like that baseline or not? Do we want to improve this? Do we want to tweak that? Do we want to tweak something else? So, sorry, I just wanted to put that context in there to come back to your question, which is then, who's it for? Well, for me, it's for everyone. It's for anyone who's actually holding ADA today, someone who's going to hold ADA tomorrow, and wanting to be involved in the community, be it developing, be it building commercial applications. This is fundamental. This is like building a country and deciding how are we all going to live and play with each other.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
I also think there's some fantastic examples that we're doing today as well. So we, through the community committee, we've set up an open source committee, and that's also fundamental to what Intersect and Cardano is about. It's about developing a blockchain for open source, and there's another session later on this afternoon where we're going to dive into a lot more detail around that open source committee. I'd like to just sort of illustrate some parts about that committee and what it's going to do. We're looking at open source strategy. We're working with the different community members to give us examples of how open source is developed through the blockchain. And we can then start to expand and actually make it more visible to people. I think a lot of times people don't understand just how many contributors there are to the Cardano blockchain. And I think this working to develop an open source strategy and then promoting that is a way for the community not only to see the amount that's going on, but actually help to get further involved. And as we go through this, and from my background, I've coordinated a number of hard forks with Alonso and Basil over the last number of years. We developed that process with the community to be able to roll out those hard forks, working with the SBOs, with the dApps, with the different exchanges. And I think the Intersect gives us a chance to actually set up a hard fork working group or a committee in order to be able to actually show just how that process works and then coordinate as we roll out 1694 and potentially other hard forks, and to actually enable people to actually see really just how much work goes on and how many people are involved.
You know, and I think it's, those are perfect examples. And I think what's really important is that Intersect is an actual legal entity, but it's very different from a typical entity. Typical corporate structure, you have shareholders, and you have, you know, an executive team and a board of directors, and they all have to respond to and ultimately report to shareholders. This is a non-profit entity, and there are no shareholders. So it's members. It's everything that Intersect does, everything Intersect is about, starts from the bottom up, because it's the members that decide, it's the members that drive it, it's the members that are responsible for it, and it's ultimately the members that benefit from it. And so that is a fundamentally important difference, because that reflects how the Cardano community, as members of Intersect, get to decide collectively their own future. It's not somebody else, it's not some management team, it's not some distant board that is making decisions, it's the community of Cardano members.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it as well. Intersect is beholden to the community. It's an administration function to do what the community dictates, and the community can only dictate that by by actively participating. And so you can vote with your feet, but the first part of this is actually to become a member and participate, so you can dictate how things shape up.
I think you've just teed up for Sheldon the question of how do you become a member of Intersect?
Well, love to tell you all. Well, so right now, anybody here in the room or watching from home can just go to the Intersect MBO website. You can sign up there. It's quite a streamlined process right now. It is, as of today, free, so I encourage all of you to go out, to sign up, and to start to explore, and to imagine ways that you and your community would like to engage with this enterprise and the wider ecosystem. Into next year, we've got quite a lot planned.
Yeah.
For that.
I think, Sheldon, it's worth just to remind everybody here and at home that in the sign-up form, there is a part of the form that asks you what your interests are or what you're involved in. Yeah. It's really important that actually you help us because we're using all of that information to be able to set things up and then to engage with different communities. Going forwards, I think we realise that Intersect is very nascent. We've been started maybe 2 to 3 months ago, and we've rapidly grown with membership. And quite honestly, we can't grow fast enough. We can't involve people fast enough, and we've got to keep thinking of different and more clever ideas to get people involved. And we've had the opportunity during this event to be able to talk to different community members, to think of different ideas about how they could set up different community regional hubs, and then to help feed back their involvement and where they'd like to get involved, and help us be able to cope with that amount of information coming back into Intersect.
Yeah. And so we've got quite a lot planned next year, but just to kind of frame it for everybody here, what are some of the big kind of milestones we're looking to hit? What are some of the things that should be top of mind for people looking ahead into 2024?
Well, I think one of the most important things that we touched on already is governance. Yeah. Again, I go back to what I said before. This is such a unique community that's already been collaborating and working together since the inception of Cardano. But it's been done maybe somewhat ad hoc, and I think that we're looking at how are the ways that community can collaborate even better. How are the ways that they can identify principles and goals and a vision for Cardano that everybody coalesces around and then implements going forward. And so 2024 is going to be really an important year about doing two things. We're going to see on-chain the ability to vote on governance proposals in a way that we have never been able to do before. But even if you're going to implement governance decisions through the community's vote on chain, you still need an entire governance infrastructure around that to make that effective. And so Intersect, especially through the Civics Committee, is going to spend a lot of time on what are the best governance practices. How do we create everything from mundane websites so that people have a portal to collaborate, to again, coming up with a final version of a constitution that creates this visionary guide for the Cardano ecosystem so that we all have common principles that we operate under. And so it's going to be a really exciting year, and all of those things are going to happen through the direct involvement of Intersect, its members, and the Cardano community, because ultimately what that all looks like is going to be decided by them, not by any individual, not by any organization, not by any people that have been involved just historically. It's going to be decided by the entire Cardano community. It's what all that looks like, and Intersect is going to, as part of the community, help to create that forum for this to all come together and coalesce.
I mean, it's an incredibly exciting future. On-chain governance is just a leap forwards for Cardano, and it's absolutely brand new. We're breaking lots of new ground, and when you break lots of new ground, there's a lot of questions that arise, and that's part of Intersect's role, to help the community ask those questions, to be able to resolve them and
that's right.
understand them.
There's a lot of unknowns, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's part of the evolution process as we go through. No. So the development and delivery of 1694 is very much at the heart of Intersect, and Intersect is trying to put the infrastructure in place to be able to guide the community through this whole process.
Yeah, I think it's quite exciting. Like, it's actually a huge feat that is being trying to be undertaken, and it's a significant heavy lift. The way I think of it is, that's really going to be at the beginning. And then as you move to kind of a BAU, it's incremental changes as we go forward. Now, what is that first part? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Is it 5 years? Don't quite know yet, right? But that first initial lift is where it's going to be hard. It's super exciting because who's done this before, really, right?
Well, and that's really interesting because, look, is this the first members-based organization to exist? Of course not. Are there other blockchains that are experimenting or even have some type of on-chain voting? Sure. Are there other blockchains that have tried to come up with governance charters or manifestos? Sure. But I'm not sure there's any blockchain ecosystem that said, well, wait a minute, let's look at an entire universe of how humans come together and collaborate, and what if we combine together all of these elements: on-chain voting, a constitutional framework, a members-based organization, and put it all together as a tool set for the community to collaborate on. That's truly unique.
Yeah, so I think part of that is there's then got to be a tolerance and an acceptance that it's not possible to deliver best state on day one, right? It should be a good state, and the focus should be on not so much the outcome, but the approach, right? And this is, again, coming back to the point of having participation from the community to help shape that thinking, to say, well, what does good look like? And then we incrementally inch forward towards best state, right? All else being equal, of course, it's going to be a dynamic environment, so I'm sure there'll be more things to think about as we go forward, but notionally, that's the way I see it playing out.
Yeah, very good.
Or the way I would like to see it play out.
Yes, how we would like to see it play out. And this is quite key to all of this, is like there are many possible ways forward when it comes to what the community would like to see. We talk a lot about the openness of the forums with working groups, and where all of the community members can step up and put forward different proposals they would like to see. And on that, on proposals, wanted to kind of hit back to all of you. Where do grants fit into all of this? What is the importance of grants, and what are we doing with these?
Well, we've put together a grant program to basically bootstrap the whole 1694 governance. So we have the blockchain infrastructure, the new node that's coming out for 1694, and we need loads of tools.
Yeah.
So we've got a beginner one. So we've started on GovTool. That's actually developed by the community through Intersect administrating it, coordinating it. This does the basics, so we'll be able to vote through that tool. We'll be able to register DREPs through that tool. We need loads more. So we've set up a grant program to try and help us expand the universe of what community tooling needs to be around 1694 and the governance. We've got lots of things out there. There's like, DREP portals. We've got Can you help me out, Sheldon? What other ones we've got? We've got another open source one.
Yeah, we've got the open source. We've got to be able to, I know there's a request for proposals that relate to voting metrics, keeping track of proposals, like what are the numbers coming in, and we need a repository for history. We need something that is useful to understand, it is beautiful to look at, and is something that sets the foundational framework for how we proceed going forward with governance. And,
yeah, the organizations on this stage really believe in those tools because that's what's going to make it even more effective for the community to collaborate. And so helping to provide some jumpstart funding for those tools to be built is something that we felt strongly about because, again, the better those governance tools are, the better the community will be able to collaborate and manage and control their future and destiny, for better or worse, whatever it is. But at least the more tools you have to be able to talk and to debate and to propose and to imagine, the better the ecosystem is.
Yeah.
I think if we embellish that as well, it's really important to point out it's regional. So actually, we need more than necessarily one tool because we've got to incorporate so many languages. There's so many, important regional hubs for Cardano across the whole world, whether it's Asia, Africa, or America, or Europe. And we need those different portals in different languages that people can express themselves in their home language and understand all the different parts of this new governance infrastructure we're putting into place.
Mm-hmm. Well, as many of us have been kind of thinking about lately, there's been this topic of like the network state and how communities like Cardano can organize in such a way that it kind of mimics some of the features of a nation state, but very much locked into 21st century technology and the blockchain. And on like this kind of transitional pathway to perhaps this like network state future, if we're looking ahead, and this is maybe putting on some rose-tinted glasses and the kind of fantasy hat a little bit, looking ahead 5-10 years from now, where do you see the Cardano ecosystem going? What would be an amazing North Star we could try to aim for?
So if you look at historically the way human beings have organized themselves, a lot of it is top-down. It's either a traditional corporate structure where you have an elite management team at the top deciding everything, or it's a government where you've got a bunch of people at the top deciding everything, and we all just have to accept it. So in the early stages of blockchain, we said, well, maybe there's a better way to do it, and people said, what about everything bottom-up, where the community decides everything? Well, that may very well be a better approach, but that's messy and complicated. So in reality, I think what we're going to see is an experimentation where there may be things or certain elements where you need some sort of managerial expertise at the top, making some decisions to the extent the community wants to delegate to folks like that to do that. And maybe there are going to be a lot of things that really are clearly from the bottom, where the guidance and direction is coming from the base of the community, and probably we coalesce somewhere in the middle where there's a combination and blending of us over the years learning from best practices, coming together and seeing a combination of all types of participation, where some of it comes from the bottom, some of it may come from the top, and it ends up somewhere in this beautiful middle.
Mm-hmm.
I would say proactive engagement is like the general ethos, right? So you're kind of taking the blockchain and the ecosystem, passing it back to the community to drive it. So the worst thing we could have is apathy, right? And so you do need engagement. And I agree with what Joel said there. I think as much as one would like to think that notionally everyone can do whatever they want, you do need some kind of structure. Now, what does that look like? Is it a pyramid? Is it vertical? Is it horizontal? Don't know. But there does need to be some kind of structure because, in a way, you need to delegate certain things to subject matter experts, I suppose. And I think we'll work that out over time.
What I hope, and actually maybe I'm looking at the world with rose-colored glasses, what I hope and truly believe is that years from now, people are going to be writing, scholars are going to be writing papers about how this Cardano community came together and came up with a completely new way for human beings to come together and interact and create a new world and a new future.
Yeah, a worldwide self-sustaining network, that's what we want, right?
Yep.
And if that self-sustaining network that comes together, is making decisions and working together, starts to solve real-world problems, then we've really hit it.
Yep.
And I can see that future coming about through Intersect.
Yep. It reminds me of something that we had talked a little bit about yesterday there, Nigel, where you were saying when we get confronted with an issue here in this space, instead of deferring to what we've been doing historically, why don't we just say, decentralize this? Going back to a comment you had made earlier about kind of getting community involvement and starting to essentially franchise some of the decision making.
Exactly. You know, if you can't solve the problem, there might be lots of people out there that can.
Yeah.
Much better.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the benefit of a network.
Yeah.
You know, to actually say, well, look, guys, we've got this problem. How on earth are we actually going to solve this thing? What's the best route to take? Well, if we can franchise out the solution making across an entire network, then we can solve it in multiple ways, and then it starts to evolve and it starts to grow.
So sorry, but we are over time, so I need to
Okay.
Thank you.
No, nothing to apologize for.
One more thing.
Okay. Well, on that, I think it's a great, actually, endpoint. So apologies for going over, and just want to have one last kind of call out for all of you here in the audience to sign up today to join Intersect if you've not done so already. And if you have, get in touch, swing by the booth. We'll be here all day. It would be great to hear from you. And please, please, please get involved. Start to put together some concepts, proposals. Get out there networking. Tell your friends. And let's build Cardano.
Okay.